Yes, super pumped to open it up with a little bit of Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails, some new content from them, and I thought it was fitting since Funcom released a patch today that contained some new content for the game Conan Exiles. If you've been following along with Funcom's latest direction for Conan Exiles, it's to better the user's experience, fix bugs, and address long-standing issues. With this update, they added some new content, a new dungeon called the Dark Dregs, which takes place exactly in the same location as the current Dregs. This dungeon will be seasonal in nature, exactly the same as the Sorcerer Bounty Hunt and the Sacred Hunt, the Jabal Sag event. To my knowledge, this event did not hit the test server before being launched, so I was super interested to see what it was like. I hope you enjoyed the video. I just hit 900 subscribers. Pretty damn awesome. I appreciate all of you for jumping in and checking out my content. I hope you find good use out of this video, and I'd be interested to hear what you have to say in the comment section. Now, I'm not really a guide maker. It's not really my forte, but I do try to provide you some tips as we go throughout the video. First one being bring a torch. I did not do this. Don't jump in the acid as well. That stuff will hurt you. But the torches end up being super imperative in here because it's super dark. Now, some people mess with their I settings, and I don't know if that's helpful here. I don't do that. So for me, it was extremely dark. I don't like the dark. The jungle at night is like super cancerous for me. But anyways, a torch ends up being super helpful here. If you forget to bring one like I did, because I didn't know it was going to be super dark, then they have plant fiber and branches throughout the dungeon where you can create your own improvised torches. There are also opportunities throughout the dungeon to create some additional light, like these ones here. So if you see cauldrons like that, you can light those up, and they will give you a limited amount of time of light. Now, this dungeon is just riddled with booby traps, and that runway right there was just full. So it's super imperative that, and I always carry one with me anyways, but I always bring a gas mask. Gas masks will help you get through this dungeon taking less damage. There's a high amount of damage being given out in this dungeon. Lots of explosive traps that will kind of chip away at your health. So although I didn't include it in the font here, bringing a lot of heals is also super beneficial. Now, I'm kind of going in a straight line. I'm cutting out some of the extra parts, but this dungeon essentially runs in a straight line, and you can run basically right through it. If you take your time and explore the sides of the dungeons, then you'll have opportunities to find a whole bunch of chests that contain some pretty decent loot. So it depends what you're in there for. I like to collect loot, so I've been kind of exploring all sides of the dungeon and trying to hit as many chests as I possibly can. There are two parts in this dungeon where you have to climb a chain. I don't recall really climbing chains in the past in this game, so it took me a minute to figure this out. Kind of felt like a noob once I realized that I just had to go up the chain. I was jumping in the acid and doing all sorts of things, but eventually I figured it out, climbed the chain. Now, you'll eventually run a little deeper into the dungeon, and you'll run into these big slugs. These slugs are a pain in the ass. They have 32,000 hit points, and they actually hit kind of hard. So you don't want to really necessarily get in their way, but if you can kite them, and by kiting I mean by getting them to follow you, and if you can lead them over some of the traps that are in the dungeon, when they hit, for some reason, when they hit explosive traps, their hit points melt extremely fast. You can see it right there where they're losing over 10,000 hit points once they go over an explosive trap. So that's super beneficial to do. Otherwise, you'll be there all day. And then once you're done killing the slugs, pickaxe them, because they will give you abysmal fangs, which you will need to craft the gear and the weapons that you get at the end of the dungeon. So that's why I showed you that. Once we get through this second janky gate, we go on another runway here, and we'll run into some undead skeletons. The undead skeletons, when you choose to kill them, they primarily drop heals, which I ended up deciding to pick up because I had only brought 10 heals with me. Wasn't really fully prepared for what was to come, so sometimes you get stutter wraps, sometimes you get decent concentrated aloe pots. I started making a habit of picking them up because I ended up kind of needing them as I went through the dungeon. This part here, once you get through the booby-trapped area, there's another chain, and you can climb it, and you can see a series of like sewage pipes that some are open. Now, if you're looking for chests, you can go into those sewage pipes and find a bunch of chests, including a few fragments of power. I just cut that part out because, well, I didn't find it particularly exciting. So at this point, you're going to see a tube on the far left that has the blue kind of instance screen, and once you go through that, it's time to fight the boss. And this boss, the whole dungeon kind of gave me Kirak vibes. The voice, I feel like they use the same voice actor. This boss battle has a couple phases to it, just much like the Kirak dungeon. I didn't really know what I was in for here. It wasn't crazy challenging, but if you're not careful and you're not getting some heals off at various times when you need them, you could potentially die here. They made it just challenging enough. Experienced PvPers would be just fine here. I happen to bring a level 7 Sumerian Berserker with me that did some work in here for me. Now, the first phase was a quick one. Once we got Najaf down here to about 2,400 hit points, he disappears, just much like the Kirak bosses do. When you get them down to a certain hit point level, they kind of go poof, and you have to deal with some other creatures and obstacles. Now, two of these slugs arrive, and with them having 32,000 hit points, I wasn't super interested in fighting them, knowing that Najaf would probably reappear at some point during that fight. Also, they start dumping acid into the area here, and if you get caught into that, it quickly diminishes your health. And then there are some random explosions as well, and I don't know exactly where they were coming from because I didn't really see any landmines on the ground, but the odd time the ground would explode. So I kind of just bided my time and tried to keep my hit points up until Najaf would reappear. And it actually took quite some time for him to reappear, and I was just kind of running around staying away from the slugs and staying away from the acid. My thrall was taking an absolute beating from the slugs and the acid, and then Najaf reappeared. To my surprise here, in this second phase, his hit points melted super quick, and the slugs kind of didn't really do a whole lot here to help him, so we were able just to go to work on Najaf. And then once you get him down to 1 hit point, all these blue ghost things appear and kind of finish him off. The slugs remained, which was annoying, and it kind of made me panic because my health was, or not my health, but my thrall's health was getting low. So I looted Najaf, thinking that once I left the dungeon there would be some kind of vendor, much like the bounty hunt system for the sorcerers, where I could cash it in. But sure enough, there was nothing, and I realized that in the animation when I first entered the dungeon and he was trying to unlock a chest, I realized I needed to go and unlock that chest for my loot gains. So I had to go back into the dungeon. The dungeon was appeared as if I had just run it, so I could just run directly right through back to the boss. I had to fight the boss again, and my thrall almost died, but I got a second set of keys, and I unlocked the chest where the goods were there. I was excited to see the sword. I looked at the damage. I'm like, that's kind of lame, but there was a legendary Gavin's Rusty Pike. There were some coins. There were a few other assorted things like a master repair kit or a legendary repair kit, a fragment of power. I took the head, the abysmal head. I took the eyes. I figured I'd probably need those things to craft the new gear, and I learned the 2 recipes, and that was that, and I took off. Once departing the dungeon, I decided to head back to base and immediately craft the gear and the short sword just to see what was going on, what kind of stats it had. I'm super excited. It took a while to craft. Here I am working out of an improved armor's bench with Fia as a thrall. I don't have a shield right, so I made the gear, and then I also made the abysmal sword. I made the sword with a blacksmith, so it's coming out with max damage at 52. The gear carries 5 plus 5 agility damage, plus 5 strength damage, which I thought was kind of neat. It's medium gear. So I'd be super interested, and this is where I want to kind of hear from the PvP community. Is this new gear set going to carry any kind of use? PvP is not my area of expertise, and I wish I could give more info and tips on this part, but I can't, so I'd rely on my the people that check out these videos. What do you think of the new gear? What do you think of the new sword? Anyways, hope to hear from you all. Thanks again for watching. You are the best. Cheers, everybody.